of the 20th century, Adolf Hitler is the only one he mentioned more than twice. Because I can't do them all, though, believe me, I will if you press me. I'll just take the Führer. My former colleagues and ancestors at the New School produced a very comprehensive edition of Mein Kampf, the hard book to get. They wanted everyone to read it, and I have several copies of the edition they brought out in 1940. Just slightly too late, actually, in the hope of warning people. I think it's at the closing pages of chapter 2 that Adolf Hitler says that his work against the Jews is done on the direct instruction and inspiration of Almighty God. It's certainly a trope that's repeated throughout the book. And there was no reason for someone brought up in Catholic Austria, Bavaria, not to think that. Centuries of Christian instruction in the poisonous nature of the Jewish people, the verminous character of the Jewish people. An uncontroversial remark. The Vatican at that point was willing to ban books by Evelyn Waugh and Graham Greene. Say nothing, books about evolution and the Big Bang. They were invited to ban Mein Kampf, did they? No, they didn't. Instead, the Vatican made its first ever political treaty with the Third Reich, exchanging complete control over education, on their part, for complete control over the rest of the state by the Nazi Party. What did it say on the belt buckle of every single member of the Nazi army? What did it say? Gott mit uns. Do you want me to translate? It says God on our side, in German. If you took your oath to the Führer, how did it have to begin? I swear in the name of Almighty God, my undying fealty to Adolf Hitler. Shmuley, I won't take it from you. I'm sorry. I don't want to spoil a relatively friendly evening either. Don't you dare bring this up again. I can take a lot. Read any history of fascism in the 20th century and take out the word fascist from any history that's remotely objective, including much written by Christian historians, and just put in, instead of the word fascist, extreme Catholic. You don't need to change another word. To say this was secular is just getting history completely wrong. To say it's atheist is a deliberate, conscious insult, and I won't have it. So, now you know how rude I can be.
I would ask Dinesh to point out to us where and when did Stalin ever kill in the name of atheism. Stalin was seminary educated, by the way. In fact, he tolerated the church. He was more concerned about the political implications of the church. His atheism was more of a political thing than philosophical. And yet, Christians like Hitler was a Christian. He was a member of the church. And Dinesh is flat out wrong to include the Nazi regime along with atheism. That's just a flat out lie and misrepresentation of history. They wore Gott mit uns on their belt buckles. They were Lutherans and they were Catholics and they were members of the church. They were not an atheistic regime. They were pro-Christian. In fact, Hitler even said, the work that Jesus started in exterminating the Jews, Hitler, I'm going to finish that. He was on a religious crusade. He was a horrible Christian, just like Stalin was a horrible atheist. The atrocities committed by human beings are not because of their religious views, it's because some human beings on this end of the bell curve are moral monsters. Stalin was a horrible person, and it is a disservice to atheists to try to lump us with somebody like Hitler. That's in Mein Kampf, I think it is, yeah.
No, it isn't.
Where is it then? I remember him saying
Well, I'll
that.
tell you where it is, and it's actually not what you said. In the 1930s, Hitler was trying to win the support of the churches.
Wait a minute, you're asking me a question.
But you didn't know the answer.
But I know that he said that.
Well, the quote does not mention Jesus. The quote is, Hitler was trying to win the support of the churches by saying that, quote, he's doing the Lord's work. He didn't mention Jesus, and what he meant by this is he had invented a Nazi Christ who, instead of being crucified by the Jews, was a great Jew killer. Not a Christ recognizable to any Christian, and no German churches bought it. So all I'm saying is it seems to be a quote ridiculously stripped from its context.
Okay,
but let me move on.
Let me answer it by saying that I think you're wrong. I read a quote where Hitler mentioned Jesus and the work of Jesus, and if it's not in Mein Kampf, I would challenge you publicly on that. There is a quote. Perhaps not where I remember it was, but I didn't come prepared to talk about Hitler. You raised Hitler tonight, so I don't have my notes for that. But he did say that. Hitler did say, and I'm on record, that the work that Jesus started, Heil Hitler will finish.
Are you familiar with the work by Richard Weikart called From Darwin to Hitler? It's a study of the effect of social Darwinism and the impact of Nietzsche.
I've read about that, but I haven't read that.
Okay. Well, you might want to widen your circle of knowledge here, because Hitler was greatly influenced by social Darwinism. In fact, the survival of the fittest is a phrase that appears repeatedly in Mein Kampf and all of Hitler's writings.
Can I ask you a question now?
Certainly.
Was Hitler an atheist?
Yes. When I say he was... No, I'll defend it. Hitler was, you could call him, a pagan. And
but
what
was
I mean,
did he believe in God?
No.
Hitler
did not believe in God.
God.
No. Hitler revived what he called the ancient Teutonic myths. Now here's the point. In ancient Germany, just as in ancient Greece, people believed that Apollo and Poseidon were real. They believed that there was a Mount Olympus where these gods lived. But it is a complete idiocy to believe that people in the 20th century, including Adolf Hitler, believed in those gods in the same way that the ancient Norsemen or Germans did. For Hitler, these were pagan ideas that were emotionally powerful, that he used against Christianity. So, the truth of it is, yes, he was not a theist in any ordinary sense of the term.
But the Nazis had God as with it. What did that word God mean? They were Catholics and they were Lutherans, and Hitler was a member of the Catholic Church.
Hitler was not a member of the Catholic Church.
He was.
Adolf Hitler, was a Roman Catholic. He was baptized. He never renounced his baptism. The figure of 5 million British Catholics is presumably obtained from baptismal figures. I don't believe a word of it. I don't believe there are 5 or 6 million British Catholics. There may be 5 or 6 million who have been baptized, but if the Church wants to claim them as Catholics, then they have to claim Hitler as a Catholic. At very least, Hitler believed in a personified providence. He often spoke of it, and it was presumably the same providence that was invoked by the Cardinal Archbishop of Munich in 1939, when Hitler escaped assassination and the Cardinal ordered a special Te Deum in Munich Cathedral, quote, to thank divine providence in the name of the Archdiocese for the Führer's fortunate escape.